we thought, wouldn't it be great to have a business, to have people on site that we work with, that we know, that we trust, that are similar to us, who we'd happily refer to our clients to.
So it's interesting because that probably did happen anyway, but now it's more in the physical form, actually being physically in that space.
In the same space.
Yeah. Welcome to The Glass Ceiling, the podcast where business leaders share their stories, struggles and triumphs.
There is a lot in that. There's a lot of learning.
We sort of had different views on how the business should be ran.
The next 10 years looks like for South Australia.
That part's the easiest. I'm your host, Marissa Hankinson from Wavebreaker, and I'm passionate about amplifying their voices. Join me as we explore the highs and lows of innovation, entrepreneurship and leadership. From founders to CEOs, our guests will share their insights, experiences and advice on how to succeed and make a lasting impact. Get ready for inspiring conversations and valuable lessons. Let's shatter the glass ceiling, one story at a time.
Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Look no further than Next Workspace. Located on level 15, 45 Pirie Street, our incredible facilities offer everything you need to thrive, from comfortable workspaces to cutting-edge technology and amenities. Plus, our collaborative community will help you connect with like-minded professionals, share ideas and learn from each other's experiences. With flexible workspaces, meeting rooms and event spaces, you'll have everything you need to grow your business. And with our supportive community, you'll never be far from inspiration, motivation or a helping hand. At Next Workspace, we're more than just an office, we're a community for innovation and creativity. Join us today and watch your business soar. Next Workspace, empowering your success. Visit us at www.nextworkspace.au.
Hello, Lisa, and welcome to the Glass Ceiling podcast. It's a pleasure to have you. Can I ask you to tell me who you are and who you're representing today?
So my name is Lisa Pritchard, she said. I'm the General Manager at Next Curated Workspace, which is a brand new job for me. I'm also, in my spare time, a Director at Holman Hodge, specialising in tax services. So I'm an accountant by trade who's moved into a broader General Manager role for a brand new business.
Fantastic. So can I ask, how did you get into accountancy?
It's one of those things. You think back to when I was 17 years old, and I always enjoyed the humanities more than sciences. So got into legal studies and economics and accounting at school, and led to a Bachelor of Commerce, and I decided I was not going to be an accountant. And then I worked out it was probably the only way I was going to get a job. So I thought I could do that for a while. And almost 30 years later, I'm still an accountant.
Okie dokie. So I don't think any kid grows up wanting to be an accountant.
No.
But can I ask, what did you want to be?
I wanted to be a lawyer, actually.
Okay.
I did. So I always, which, not that different, but there's a lot of reading and interpreting in being a lawyer. And I sort of worked that out in first year at uni, and I liked the problem-solving aspect, I think, of accounting more than the lawyer side of things. And essentially that's what, when you're an accountant, junior accountant, you're doing the accounting work, and the more senior you become, it becomes a problem-solving role. It's not sitting there doing financial statements and tax returns. It's helping people solve their problems in their business, using their numbers to do that.
Fantastic. So you've started to specialise. You specialised in tax?
I did.
Yes. So where did that turn in?
Interestingly, I think it came because I liked a bit of the law. I didn't like all the law. So in doing tax, I've specialised in the tax legislation. So I don't look at anything else from a legal perspective, but I do like working in the tax law. I like the rules. I like understanding where they come from, why they're there and how they work. And you need to know the rules and understand the rules and everything behind them to help clients navigate and get the best answer to what they want. Sort of understanding that, something's deductible or it's not, that's one thing, but understanding why and where that line is and how it changes, that's the interesting part.
Good stuff. So you said that being an accountant is more about problem solving and helping businesses. What do you see businesses having the most, they've got to understand their numbers, but what does that really look like for businesses?
I think the key to a lot of businesses is understanding that profit is not the same as cash, is not the same as what you pay tax on. So you can have three fundamentally different answers. So you might have a high profit, but if no one's paying your paying for your services, so you have a lot of accounts that are owing to you.
A lot of debt.
You look really profitable, but you have no cash. And again, that and there's obviously a whole lot of tax rules that change that as well. So I think it's understanding very much how your cash flow underpins everything. Profit is important, and understanding how all of that fits together is really important. But cash flow is probably the biggest thing that I see clients struggle with, yeah, or ignore. Sometimes I think for some clients, ignore's not quite the right word, but sometimes things get too far along and they just don't.
Just that burying your head in the sand kind of thing of like, I just don't want to.
Yeah, it's too far gone now, and I don't want to know where it sits. But it's never that bad, and it's always if you've got someone keeping you accountable for it, that helps a lot. I think in business, and trying to do it all on your own is probably where people come unstuck,
and that's where Holman Hodge comes in. Yeah. So interestingly enough, you've just mentioned a new business. So can you expand a little bit more on what that is?
Yeah. So we've started a new business called Next Curated Workspace. We saw an opportunity in the market to have not just a co-working space, but an opportunity to really curate a community of like-minded people to work together, support each other, including Holman Hodge. So Holman Hodge supporting others supporting Holman Hodge. We had a really hard think about the type of services that our clients often reach out to us for, which we don't provide. So as an accountant, we get a lot of questions from a lot of people. It might be that they need to refinance some debt, or they want to do some financial planning, or they need a divorce lawyer, or they've come up with a great idea, and what do they do how do they trademark intellectual property? What do they do? We get all sorts of questions. We're almost the first port of call for anything that's going on in their life and business for a lot of our clients. So we thought, wouldn't it be great to have a business, to have people on site that we work with, that we know, that we trust, that are similar to us, who we'd happily refer to our clients to be able to sit down and be able to go, well, we've actually got someone here that we can have a quick chat to, or why don't you talk to this person and work with them, or perhaps businesses in Next can help upskill each other. So the opportunity for someone who works in, say, HR law to provide advice or updates to everybody at Holman Hodge and Next. So Holman Hodge is a member of Next, the Next community. So provide updates to all of us to help not only build community, but build brand across each other, get to know new people, network, cross referral. So that's where it came from.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to do.
So it's interesting because that probably did happen anyway, but now it's more in the physical form.
Yeah.
Actually being physically in that space.
In the same space.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference. It is, if you're calling someone and you do a referral and you have to send them an email and then they reply and then it goes on their work list, it's a bit different. Things take longer to happen and be resolved, whereas someone who's sitting there, if I'm standing in your doorway,
and saying, hi, I've got the, hang on a second, they may be available. And also that's an element of convenience for your clients.
Absolutely.
Too.
Yep.
To be able to go, all right, this is a little bit of a one-stop shop, go into Holman Hodge. And I know there is statistics around this and you might know them, but there is something like if you help your client a number of times with added value and it's not your service, then your lifetime of that being a client, that person being a client or a business being a client is significantly longer.
Yes.
So it's a good business model for Holman Hodge as well.
All of our Net Promoter, or when we've done Net Promoter or done the client satisfaction surveys, one of the things that's always come out quite strongly is that clients appreciate our referrals.
Yeah, or the extra help.
The extra,
I mean, referrals
and because they know
language.
We're not going to just say, go speak to this person. I will look at a client and I'll think, is that the right lawyer to send them to, or should I send them to somebody else? Sometimes you do only need a smaller practice to help out with what's going on. Sometimes if you're dealing maybe with a marital dispute or something, you think, well, maybe we need to go to a big, a firm with a name that this is going to end up in court, or, so it sort of gives us that flexibility. We've always been we're really careful around who we put our clients in touch with because that reflects on us.
Yeah.
So having someone in the space that we've got to know really well just builds on that ability to
Yeah.
to make those
I mean,
connections.
I definitely think referrals is like our language. Yes. However, to a client, it's just help.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, if you can put somebody in front of somebody and it's convenient and it's helpful, there's an element of that trust that gets transferred from you, and especially now that they're in your workspace as well, yep. to your client as well. And it's one of those unspoken things that yep. happen, but does have a lot of
it's really
value.
Important, because if you don't do it well, you could lose a client.
Correct.
And damage a relationship. So it's something that's important to us, and we thought that would help underpin Next.
So I suspect, being a director of tax services and the general manager of Next, that is a lot on your plate.
It is. It is.
So how does Lisa wind down?
I have 2 children, but they're teenagers now, so I have a lot more. I won't say I have a lot more time, but I have a lot more time that I feel I can use without, you know, having to deal with ongoing children. You know, I'm not bathing and feeding and all of that sort of stuff. I've got a bit more flexibility with my own time. So on Saturday mornings, I hike with a couple of friends, have done for probably 6 or 7 years now. It sort of came in as our kids all got older and morning sport fell away. We could do that. So we usually hike for a couple of hours every Saturday. If it's raining, we might not hike. We might just meet for coffee for a couple of hours instead. But it's a really good chance they're in similar space, workspace. We know each other. We've been friends for more than 20 years. So
Did you start out together?
One I started out in work, one I started out at uni. So they've been long-term friends. So know the family, know people I work with, have just met people over time. So it becomes very easy to have those conversations. And because we catch up weekly, we quite often have, you know, it'll be, I'm dealing with this thing at work and I'm trying to work out this and I've got a meeting next week and this is how I propose to, you know, what do you think? But then the next Saturday it's like, well, how did it go?
Yeah.
And you can debrief on it. And because we catch up every week, it's not one of those catch-ups where it's a big download. You sort of catch up with someone you haven't seen for ages and you talk and you leave and you've just really updated everyone on, you know, each other on what's going on. Whereas this is a weekly catch up. So you really are dealing with what's happening in the day-to-day world. I also like it because they also work in similar workspaces to me, that I do my hike and we have a chat, and generally most of my problems are either off my chest or sorted or we've spoke. So I go home and work's just not something that I really worry about or think about anymore, because I've had a chance to talk through even things where I know there's no resolution, but I'm cross about something or annoyed at myself about something. They always say the right things that just sort of help you put it to bed.
And 20 years of friendship is, they know you know them.
That's right.
There's a different level of
And they
comfort.
can say, no, you are wrong. No, I think you've overreacted, or no, you need to pull your head in for that bit, or no, you are absolutely 100% right. You need to fight for that. So you sort of get a really good balance of so if one of them say that, then I know they're not just saying, oh, no, it's fine. You of course, you're right. Lip service. They will tell me if they think I'm wrong, and vice versa. So that I find that really helpful. They're really useful sounding boards and decision-making assisters. Yeah.
It's very important to have that. And I think having friendships over the generations, gosh, that sounds like we're ancient, doesn't it? But over time, that I've seen the different facets of you, your career, motherhood, whatever, and they're still there. It just gives a different level.
Yeah, it does.
That is very appreciative. I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah,
in that,
absolutely.
My best friend in the UK. I think we've been best friends 29 years now. Yep. She's here in Adelaide. I followed her, so she wasn't going to get. She wasn't going to get rid. I think she tried. She tried for 10 years to get rid of me, and I was like, "Nah, I'm sorry. I'm following you."
Yeah. It makes a massive difference.
It does.
And I do, you know, and I say, sometimes I feel incredibly lucky, but I also know that there's, you know, ebbs and flows. There's, you know, and we're at a different point now than when our kids were young and we were all in the weeds. We weren't catching up every week, and, you know, that didn't happen, but it takes a bit of time and effort to prioritise. And I do prioritise friendships very much because they keep me sane.
Yes, definitely. So outside of your friendship, with your girlfriends? Do you have a mentor, or has there been anybody in your life that's been impactful?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a couple of coaches. I have a client who she's a coach by trade, and through time and through increasing her accreditations and getting different qualifications around coaching, she used me through that training as part of like almost a guinea pig. She had to record our sessions, and they were used for different things, but that stuck, and we've maintained a fairly close friendship and coaching relationship. People have come up and around time. It's sort of depending on what happens, there'll be someone who sort of lands and they can give me some really good business perspectives on things. I know my thinking can be quite linear sometimes, so I know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know. So there can be things that just come up and I think it's completely crazy or it makes no sense. But if I speak to someone who's more generalist in business, they can give me some perspective on those.
And is that within the Holman Hodge network, or is that external?
No, they're external. I spent a lot of time over the years with Graham Hodge and Paul Holman, and have learned a lot from both of them. But sometimes I need an external perspective as well from what we're talking about and what we're doing as a business, because we don't always agree. There's different perspectives all the time on different things, and we've all been influenced differently throughout our careers with different people we've worked with and different clients we've worked on, and our experiences with different people. So you always bring your own views to the table, and forget that, well, I may have had that happen with that particular client, but when someone else had a similar issue, it turned out completely differently for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So we have different perspectives or different perspectives.
So just to help me understand, what kind of size of accountancy practice is Holman Hodge?
So we're about 40 people in total.
So is that like mid-tier?
So I think most of the mid-tier are probably quite a bit bigger, but just their business services, we only do business services. So we don't have audit, financial planning. We don't have anything.
Right, yeah.
We have a small management consulting group, but I think if you just take our business services, we're probably a similar size to the other mid-tier firms. So it's 6 directors in Holman Hodge in the accounting tax sort of business services group.
And from a business perspective, do you service all types of businesses from micro business all the way up?
Yep, we do.
Yeah.
And that's why there's 6 of us really. We all sort of have our niches and our specialties in dealing with different businesses, and we try and make sure we've got the right people looking after the right clients and the right jobs, from personality and to specialties and industry and those sorts of things. But we have a fairly broad spectrum of specialties, and we're all a bit different. So it's quite fun.
So I know that obviously because of your profession, you have your continuous professional development that you have to do. But is there any learning that you do outside of what is like mandated, if that makes sense, to keep yourself ahead in business or leadership or managing your teams?
Yes. I mean, I'm a chartered accountant, I'm a chartered tax advisor, graduate from the AICD company directors course, and a tax agent. So they've all got CPD requirements around them.
So when it says Lisa Pritchard, do you have like lots of letters?
I can do, yeah. If I choose to, I can have lots.
Is it the alphabet?
Yeah, because I'm a fellow, so I'm an FCA and I'm a CTA and I'm a GAICD and I'm I don't know. Yes, plenty. So I don't, you just, and it's funny because there is a lot in that. There's a lot of learning and study and work that's gone into that, but it's almost been sort of, for me, it's just felt like a bit of a natural progression through my career. And I did the AICD course because I've specialised in tax for so long, but I really wanted to broaden my commercial skills. Yeah. So I quite often was brought into a transaction to assist in the tax and compliance requirements, whereas now I would say I've got a much broader, and I really wanted to do that because I like working with clients holistically, not just in the tax space. So I have a lot of CPD that sits around all of those things, a lot of webinars and stuff. So the tax side of things we do, I do that fairly easily through our normal, just having to keep up to date. But I like to listen to podcasts. That's how I get a lot of my information. I own a lot of books around, leadership, and I don't read a lot of them. I buy them, and I just really struggle to read nonfiction. When I sit down with a book, I just want it to be easy.
And escapism.
Yep, escapism. But I do listen to some podcasts for books and things. I do listen to, ebooks. Some of them when I go out walking and hiking and running and stuff, I sort of listen to those things, but I try and keep it broader. So I really like things like ABC does a news daily podcast. It's 15 minutes and it's on a topic that's topical in the news. So I can listen to that, and it might be about, at the moment there's quite a few on the US election, but there's a lot around. So the inflation numbers just came out today. Came out yesterday. What does that mean for interest rates? Or the Reserve Bank put interest rates up. What can we expect to see happen? Why is that just lots of daily things in the news, and it's a 15-minute sort of deep dive. Not so deep that I can be an economist and explain it all, but it just helps me feel like I've got a good understanding of what's going on. And I can see a client might come in and say, God, my business loan rate's just gone up to, 6.5% or 7%. What are your other clients paying? Or is that normal? Or is that what I should expect? And it's being able to have those sorts of conversations that I find really helpful. Like the technical stuff, people just assume you know. So if they're coming to see me and I say Director Tax Services, they just assume I've got the tax stuff under control. But it's being able to have those broader conversations around cash flow and what we're seeing with banks and what people are paying for different things. That's the piece that I think clients find really useful.
Yeah. I must admit, I'm a podcast addict, I think. And I have different podcasts. So a similar thing. I have the news going in, so I'm up to date. I usually have something to do with leadership, etc. Interestingly, on the way home, I have my true crime murders. And my husband says, is that a sign of your day? And I go, no, I hope not. Just subconsciously. What do you listen to? Any fun podcasts?
I do. I'm quite a convert to Mamma Mia. So Mia Friedman is co-founder of a media company, and they have a podcast that I would have been listening to for not from its inception, but probably a good 6 or 7 years now, called Mamma Mia Out Loud.
Yeah, and I think that's one of their most popular.
It's 3 of them, and it's Mia Friedman and Holly Wainwright and Jessie Stevens, and they talk about it. I think their catchphrase is what women are talking about. And sometimes it's what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's stuff I've never even heard of or thought about. But I find it really interesting because Mia Friedman's a business owner who's early 50s and started her own business from scratch with her husband. So I find that really interesting because when they're talking about, for example, the right to switch off. So there's a Fair Work case on your right to switch off, and you've got someone younger in the podcast talking about how fantastic and wonderful that is.
It's very generationally different, isn't it, that show? So
and then you get Mia, who runs her own business, saying, I get it, but these are some of the other things that you need to think about. Like if we've got a country that is full of small businesses that's, provides productivity for the economy and people jobs, and I have to work out how this matches our business model and how we get the best out of people. And I completely understand people have the right to switch off, but it's not always as black and white as it can seem. And Holly Wainwright sort of sits in the middle. She's 50 as well, but an employee, not a business owner. So she has a different perspective. And then Jessie's 30 or however old she is. Find it fascinating.
Yeah, it's really fascinating in that, like my husband, his enterprise agreement's coming up and they want 20% over 3 years. They've got like this forum, and that's the best way to describe it. So there was lots of comments, and they was like, well, we're just going to leave and things like this. I've been here for 20 years. And I said, oh, they'll probably really like that. And Stephen said, what do you mean? And I said, well, they won't have the long service leave. They won't have the sick leave that's been compounded over a number of years. I said, from a bottom line perspective for the business, that's them leaving is not an incentive for them to improve their offer. And Stephen was like, I never thought of it like that.
And they go to market with a new enterprise agreement to a whole new.
Yeah. And it was just such, you've got to, like, sometimes everyone's in it for themselves, but you actually have to turn it around and go, it is business, and what is the impact on that bottom line? And sometimes you've got to look and you go, you're not in the best negotiation stance by threatening.
Yeah.
Because do you know what? There are people who would take your job.
Yeah. And
at the
I
current
look at
conditions.
That you miss perspective. So I've got teenagers, so I feel like I'm getting some good perspective, or I don't understand it, but I'm getting some good perspective around teenagers. And then there's me and my friends, and we're all in our 40s. I'm being generous, but we're mostly all in our 40s. And I do love that where I work, it keeps me, I have to work with people of all different ages. So a lot of my managers now are sort of in that early 30s mark and starting their families. And I don't feel like I'm that much older than them, but I am a lot older than them. And I like listening to, the reason I like some of the podcasts is because I can have a very, visceral response to some things where you just think, well, that is just ridiculous. Like, why would you do that? Or that's crazy. And then hearing a 30-year-old on a podcast talk about it makes me think, oh, okay, did not think about it like that.
Yeah, just
at
different
all.
Perspective.
And sitting down talking to someone where they say, Lisa, I'm 25. I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to afford to buy a house. And I hear that all the time. But, in my head, I'm like, well, we managed to.
Yeah.
But I sort of, when you look at it and you talk to people and you see what they're dealing with banks and how things are playing out for them, I'm like, yeah, okay, that I've got to put a different hat on to think about that, because, my kids are too young at the moment for that to be a reality for them. That's likely to be their reality. Having that perspective from different people on a issue or a matter or something that comes up. I mean, Mamma Mia, sometimes they talk about Taylor Swift and I'm like, whatever, I don't really care, but it's funny and it's interesting.
But sometimes that's just lighthearted relief. Sometimes,
yeah, it is.
Sometimes it's just, as you say, reading I think I've got one book on the side of my table, and Stephen just literally, I feel like it's my go to sleep book, because I think I usually can go through one book at least every 2 weeks, minimum. This book has been on my bedside table since Christmas.
Yeah, I've got a couple.
And I've got I think every time I go through 4 pages, I'm like flat out.
Yeah, and then you've got to read 2 of those again before the
year.
And then
it's just like, it's the book that you read to go to sleep. Yeah. And I'm like, there's something about this book. And it's been recommended to me so many times, but I just can't.
Yeah. I usually have 3 or 4 books on the go, depending, hard copy books, e-books, books on my iPad. Depends on what I feel like. And
yeah, but it's about escapism, and that's not a bad thing. And I'm assuming that from your side, how many staff do you manage? I know you said 40, but you're a director.
So we work in teams. I have a team of about 6 or 7. In Next, it's a team of 2. So in the curated workspace side of it, I have 2 people who I'm working pretty closely with in that. But from the Holman Hodge side of it, there's 6-ish in our team.
And the reason I said that is because if you're having these kind of different perspectives put on you about issues and things like that, that must help you manage.
Yeah, it at least helps me understand where they might be coming from a bit more. So in conversations around productivity and people arrive at work at 9:15 and leave at 5:15, and we didn't do that. So that's always the classic, but that's not what we did. We worked longer when we had to, and we had to do the rest of it. How do we get people to work longer hours? And it's a bit like, well, maybe it's not about how do we get people to work longer hours. It's about how do we get people to work really efficiently from 9:15 until 5:15, because I don't think they're going to work longer hours. It's a generational, so it's just a shift.
Yeah.
And if we keep trying to just have people work longer hours, I don't think we're going to achieve what we need to achieve, which is good productivity. And I mean, so the difference is maybe the ones who work longer until 6 or 6:30, maybe they're having a couple of coffee breaks during the day, or they always take their lunch break in full to make sure that,
it's just swings.
I think for us, it is swings and roundabouts. This is exactly what I was going to say. It's swings and roundabouts. And I know I'll work a long day, but I also know that I might go and have a coffee with someone for half an hour and just have a chat. And, I know that, work to me is quite a social place. It always has been. I have a lot of my closest friends have been people that I've worked with over the course of my life in different jobs. And I do like having a drink and a chat at the end of the day, not every day, but, Friday or a Thursday in our directors' meetings, we might have a sit down and have a chat. I do really enjoy that. And that's a key part of me and my social network and my wind down. But I don't know that it will be like that for generations coming through. So you sort of need to understand and be able to to balance that and say, well, just because we're happy to have a long lunch or have drinks after work or have morning teas and things and make sure we still do our, full work. These guys don't necessarily want to do those other things. They just want to be here from, so not everyone. And I don't mean to generalize in any way, but there is a definite change in how I'm seeing the really, so early 20s, mid 20s, how I'm seeing them engage, even from like 30-year-olds. Like it's just a bit different.
So this brings me back to the new fit out that you had for Holman Hodge and the next Curated Workspace. Before you moved into your new premises, etc., what did you have? A mixture of hybrid workers, those kind of things?
We had most people come back to work as soon as they could. So we have most people in the office most of the time. We have a few part-timers, so there's always space. We have the opportunity for people to work from home if they want to, and we can we're happy to strike an arrangement with them, but they don't want to.
No.
As a general
that's
rule,
interesting. That's really good to hear.
Few senior people. I work from home a day a week, and that gives me a chance to
get on top of things
and stay on top of things. There's a couple of senior people who have a day regularly at home. Most of our other staff will use it when they need to. So they'll say, I've just got to get through something. So today I'm going to work from home. We've always had flexible work practices anyway, which is, if a plumber's coming and you just need to be at home because, let's face it, sometimes, we'll be there between 8 and 12 and that is what it is. They want to work from home for the day to do, absolutely. We've always had flexible work policies. So it was post-COVID sort of saying, well, what's flexible work policy versus a work from home policy? They are actually different things, and you don't have to use the work from home policy if you need to go to a specialist appointment or you need to be at home to do something. You can make your out. We've always been able to say, well, if you can't get in till 10 because you've got something on, you've got the opportunity to make up the time. So we've always had that flexibility. But what we wanted to do with Next and the fit out that we've done is to make it the way we work has changed. So we used to sit at our desks and do our work, and then we'd have meetings and things. Whereas now you're continually in Teams meetings or doing different, where your training is online. And so what we wanted to do was have a space where we could all be together and collaborate and chat and do what needs to be done. But when I need to go and do a meeting, I can pack myself off and go and sit somewhere else and do that. I mean, none of us, so directors managers don't have offices where we are now. It's all completely open plan. I love it. It's fantastic. Like, even just the relationships with staff is so much.
It's that improvement. So
much better because I'm not tucked away in an office where I might run into them in the kitchen and have a chat about something. Now it's almost a bit like the hiking. I see them every day or every couple of days and have a chat, so you can chase up on how things went with whatever we were talking about, and just the ability to get work done and answer questions and keep things moving along.
So what's been the feedback from the staff?
From what I don't know if they'd tell me the truth because they might be too scared. But no, I think everyone loves the space.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I don't think there's been any. I think they're really happy with having everyone out together because, of course, there's a flip side. So you can have directors saying, I'm not sure I want to sit at a desk surrounded by staff. I'm not sure that all the staff want a director sitting in the middle of their pod either. It goes a bit both ways. So I think we've got enough space and enough different ways to work that I'm often, I'll be in a quiet room making, on a Teams call or making phone calls in the phone booths or, so I do make sure I leave my space so the guys do know, I'm not there all the time. I'm not there all the time. I'm not sitting there in a space of 6 to keep an eye on them. That's not it at all. It's just to all be able to work together and collaborate. So I think from what I can gather,
it's going well.
It's going pretty well. Everyone
Awesome.
seems to like it.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Lisa. It was really good to chat to you and learn more about Holman Hodge and also the next Curated Workspace. And I personally am loving that space as well because I've been utilising it too.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Marissa.
No problem.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Glass Ceiling. If you've liked what you heard, please subscribe, as we'd love to have you as part of our community. We're grateful to our guests for sharing their inspiring stories and insights with us, and to our sponsors in making this podcast possible. This podcast was brought to you by Wavebreaker. Join us next time as we shatter the glass ceiling, one story at a time.